To wrap up our discussion on integrated pest management, we're going to look at mildews and molds. And while these aren't pests in the typical sense that they're not insects, they are a common problem in aquaponic systems given the high humidity environments that we create utilizing soilless growing technologies. Additionally, many of the prevention and treatment techniques that are utilized for common greenhouse pests apply to managing and mitigating mildews and molds on our crops. The first of the two types of mildews that we're going to look at is powdery mildew. Powdery mildew is characterized by white, powder-like circles that appear on the top surface of our plant leaves, as pictured here in the left-hand photo. Powdery mildew thrives from about 20 degrees to 30 degrees Celsius, so it likes it relatively warm, and it prefers relative humidities near about 95%. This mildew is very common on large leaf plants such as squashes, cucumbers, and tomatoes. Another type of mildew that we see very frequently in aquaponic growing environments is downy mildew, and downy mildew is technically not a fungus, but rather a type of mold. This mold appears as brown, gray, white, or even sometimes purplish spores on either the top side or the underside of our plant leaves. Downy mildew prefers temperatures between 17 and 21 degrees Celsius and a relative humidity of approximately 85%. Molds are very dependent on freestanding water that create pockets of high humidity around our plant growing surfaces, such as in media bed production. So very commonly, if you have a downy mildew or powdery mildew problem in your greenhouse, it's going to be in your deep water culture float beds or your media beds. Typically NFT gutters, because there's a hard barrier between the water in the system and the vegetative portions of the plants, we don't usually see powdery mildew or downy mildew issues inside of NFT production. When looking to prevent molds or mildews from attacking our growing crops, the first line of defense, as always, and we've stressed this throughout this entire course, is we should maintain a clean growing environment. Additionally, we should remove trimmings and harvested plant debris as regularly as possible, preferably at least daily. We should also regularly check our media beds and other growing equipment for fallen leaves, leaf litter, or debris that might facilitate the growth and reproduction of molds and mildews. Molds and mildews spread incredibly fast across our plant surfaces and through our plant populations, particularly on crops like basil. And so plants with signs of mildew should be immediately treated or removed from the growing environment. Another way to mitigate and prevent incidences of molds and mildews in our growing environments is to maintain proper airflow. Horizontal airflow fans aid in maintaining approximately 1.5 to 2 km per hour airflow around the plant materials, and this drastically decreases incidences of molds and mildews developing on our plant leaves. As a side note when discussing molds and mildews, because molds and mildews thrive in high humidity environments, if you're using an evaporative cooler or a water wall to maintain lower temperatures in your growing environment, you are drastically increasing the relative humidity of your growing environment by doing that. And while I am a huge fan of utilizing evaporative coolers in growing environments, if you're using one or if you're using a swamp cooler to maintain the temperature of your greenhouse, you are increasing your risk and exposure to mildew and mold developments on your crops. So if you're using an evaporative cooler, be extra diligent about checking regularly for molds and mildews on your plant surfaces. When it comes to addressing molds and mildews in our growing environments, reactive treatments often involve the use of soft and chemical fungicides. Simple sprays of baking soda and water will alter the pH of the plant surface and can really knock back and kill mildews and molds. Stronger fungicides can be purchased, including a number of organic options. There are a number of options out there that are safe for use in aquaponic systems and in and around your aquaponic growing environment for addressing molds and mildews on your plant surfaces. Neem oil is a good starting option for addressing mildews. It works really well. An important note when purchasing fungicides for use in an aquaponic growing environment is that copper fungicides are highly toxic to your fish and should never be sprayed over a raft bed or a media bed or near your fish tanks or in any manner where the copper fungicide could enter into your system water and pollute your water with copper that could really harm your fish.